certain extremely ideological Christians, it's like they didn't seem open to talking about anything. They seem ignorant about certain things or whatever. And it's like
anyone can be, whatever they believe.
Sure,
right?
sure. Yeah. So I still, but I went through a time of trying to figure out, okay, can I call myself a Christian anymore? How do I approach that? Because by the time I got done school, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. I kind of just took a year and was by myself. I mean, it was an especially kind of unhealthy circumstance because I moved away to go to school, right? And then I came home. But I came home not to like a place that I had spent, 17, 18 years growing up in and building deep relationships with, right? I came home to a place that I had spent a few months a year in and had friends that had all, that I was friends with, but they kind of had their own lives, and they kind of had their own deeper friends that they saw all the time.
Sure.
And so it's like I came home and everybody had kind of moved on with their lives, I guess. And I didn't really have any place to go. So I just kind of sat with my thoughts and sat with, with all these questions, and I just kind of spiraled.
Okay.
I got really, I probably now I would look back and I say I got deeply depressed. And I kind of had to argue my way out of it. And it's interesting because I don't think that that's kind of the answer that I would always, submit as like the way to get through a deep depression or a deep struggle with questions, is that you need to just find the answer. But I did wrestle with some of these questions until I found at least something that was good enough to keep me looking. I got to the place where, I was questioning everything. I was like, I don't know. It was like it kind of went from theological to philosophical questions of like,
right.
How do I know? It was like it went from how do I know that God exists to how do I know that I exist?
Right.
And then it was like, holy shit, how do I know that I exist?
Right.
And then it's just like it comes down, I guess, to questions about what knowing is. I don't know. It can sound really stupid if it's like if that question doesn't hit you in a way that feels like it matters, then it's like, why would you ask that?
Right.
But for some reason, for me, it mattered. And then I got to this place where it was like, how do I move on? I don't know if anything exists. I had like a Matrix moment, I guess, where it was just like everything feels fake.
Right.
Right.
So how did you build yourself? Because it's so funny, like the way you said that. I think it would probably be easy to question. You said you questioned your way out, or answered your way out. Like the rational mind could probably question your way into the depression. And I always think, the way out of places like that, for me anyways, are, through action, not through contemplation. Through just going out and going just
go for a drive.
Go for a run.
Go for a run. Yeah. Go be in the world. Like it's like you'll stop wondering if the world is true if you just go do something in it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I think I needed at least some, like, just because that whole realm of like of arguing and of like, I mean, that had become a deep part of me since I was a teenager, right? I needed to at least have some foundation there. I needed to have something to work with.
Yeah.
And ultimately what it came down to, it wasn't necessarily so much an answer to all of the questions, but it was just, I got to a frame that I was a little bit happier with for how to approach argument and how to approach sort of rationality, which was just that, like, I guess it's just that I don't take anything for granted. The only things I get to sort of know or have supposed certainty on are I only get to gamble on certainty, I guess. And it's like, so from there it was like, okay, it's not that everything doesn't exist, certainly. It's that, okay, I get to have the experience of things existing if I'm willing to sort of have faith in them.
Well, that's right? Exactly what I was going to say. Is like, that's where faith comes in, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Because, and that it was good.
Right.
And that that your actions hopefully will produce the desired outcome.
Right, yeah, exactly. It becomes much more like, I think it was a helpful frame though, because, I guess especially when I'm having these conversations when I'm a teenager, it's like a fundamentally different question between, or there's always this sort of dichotomy of like, okay, well, why do you believe in God? I only believe in things that I can see. But it's like when I went down that rabbit hole of, okay, what do I believe? and then realizing that every act of belief involves a setting aside of totally rational things you could think that would cause you not to believe anything. Like when you frame every action of belief as one of faith, then it's still a huge jump to go and believe in some sort of invisible being or abstract being or something like that.
Sure.
But it's not a fundamentally different sort of belief than believing in yourself or believing in the person being in front of you.
Right.
Right. It's still the same action. It's just it maybe is a bit more of that action.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So then, at that time, like, for me, I was always curious, a curious kid, and I'm 3 years older than you, so about the same age.
Okay. Yeah.
And when YouTube came around, it was like, okay, game on. Like, you can look up anything you want, like all these arguments. How do you prove that God exists? How do you I've listened to almost every Alan Watts lecture on YouTube, or stuff like that. And then obviously discovering kind of Jordan Peterson lectures right around 2015 or 16 when he came to prominence.
Okay, so you were a little bit earlier on that train then, because I was going to say I don't think I had heard of Jordan Peterson until a bit later on, until probably it was like just shortly before. Okay, maybe it was 2017, I guess.
Okay, so I think it was the first time anything went viral of his. I was like, okay, who is this guy? And then I watched all of his university lectures. I'm like, I'm going to U of T virtually, watching his psychology lectures. And I was like, this guy is on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to date, like that's definitely his most solid stuff. I think it's just those university lectures. That was super, super good, super interesting, super insightful. I mean, that was part of what kind of got me through some of those deeper questions too, was just here was a really, at least to me, a really foreign perspective on Christianity that didn't, it didn't line up with the way that I had been thinking about it, right? But it didn't discard it either. It wasn't sort of disrespectful. It was like, it was just very honest and or I guess it just seemed genuine. It was like, okay, I really want to ask some questions about this.
Right.
And it didn't make some of the same, it didn't fall into the same boxes or the same dichotomies that I had grown up with. I mean, I brought up that there was a strong, like, either you believe in the Bible or you believe in evolution. Like that was right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, wait, he's talking about the Bible relating to evolution. He's talking about people's minds evolving and then their myths evolving. Like, what?
Actually being an artifact of evolution?
Right. And it's like, as soon as it just kind of, it broke, I mean, not that it's like, I don't agree with every conclusion he came to or anything like that, but at least it was so important for me, I guess, just to see how you could break those walls down without totally discarding what it is that you're trying to investigate. Mm-hmm. I had kind of been presented this false dichotomy that you can either just believe it all, or if you start to question it, you're kind of headed down the wrong road and it's a slippery slope,
Really? Okay. Yeah. So what other material or what other thinkers or authors helped build your existential base or your understanding of reality back up enough? Yeah.
I would say I was following along with Michael Gungor. I'm not sure if you've heard of that guy. He was an evangelical guy who wrote some of the most popular songs that were being sung by all these different Christian bands and traveling bands too, right? I think we even sang. Actually, I'm pretty sure we sang some of his songs.
Like fairly popular stuff.
I mean, that's the thing. It was popular within that community, but you would never have
within
heard
the Christian community or within the evangelical community.
I think more specifically just the evangelical community, which I mean,
so it wouldn't be
to be fair, was a pretty big community,
right?
But it's you wouldn't have heard of him if you weren't in there,
right?
But he's one of the people I would think of that is a good example of like the ex-evangelical movement, which is another kind of community that's sort of rising up now, and it's a little bit kind of spicy anti-evangelical, it's a lot of people just kind of talking about their baggage and talking about how much evangelical Christianity fucked them up. And,
yeah.